Once upon a time, Thomas Vale stood in Dunlow County's empty courtroom with one boot inside the witness box and solder black on his fingers. Above him, the first repaired window held a grid of smoke-blue panes in fresh lead. Dawn had crossed the square, climbed the 2 stories of hand-molded brick, and entered the room. Thomas looked up to judge the fit. A woman stood in the witness box. He turned hard enough to strike the rail with his shoulder. The box was empty. When he looked through the new glass again, she was there. Not whole. Lead lines crossed her face. One eye wavered behind a ridge in the pane. She wore a plain, dark dress, cut in a fashion Thomas had seen in old tintypes. One hand rested on something narrow and black. A chain. Thomas had 15 days to reglaze the upper courtroom before spring term. The commissioners had hired him because his price was low. Low enough, one of them had said, to make a man wonder where the saving was. Yet they gave him the work. The storm of 1884 had thrown roof slate through 8 high windows. Rain had soaked 2 gallery benches, swollen the clerk's table, and left damp paper smell in the room long after the floorboards dried. Thomas needed the payment. For 2 years, since his wife died, he had lit his furnace when orders came in and let it cool when they did not. He made apothecary bottles, small shop panes, repairs for farmhouses. His workshop lease came due in April. If he finished the courthouse cleanly, the balance would cover what he owed. He bought as much sheet glass as he could afford. To stretch it, he melted down the crates of broken courthouse glass that had stood in the basement since the storm. He used a little of that old cullet in every batch. He gathered the molten glass on his iron, blew and opened it, then laid the panes to cool slowly in the lair behind his furnace. The glass came out useful, though never even. It held blue-green ridges, small bubbles, a thickness that bent a passerby's face in the street. Thomas had always liked that. A pane could warp the world and still keep out rain. By the second dawn, he trusted his own eyes less. He opened the courtroom before sunrise and waited beside the iron stove. When the first pale light reached the repaired windows, he stepped into the witness box and looked toward them. The woman stood where he stood. Her left hand lay on the dark chain, her right gripped the rail. In the pane over her shoulder sat a pale crescent bubble, a flaw Thomas remembered from the broken glass. He moved to the gallery. She vanished. He tried the jury rail. Nothing. Behind the judge's bench, he saw the square below, bare branches around the well, and the roofs of Dunlow. When he returned to the witness box, she was waiting in the glass. Thomas told no one that day. He cut panes until his thumb bled through the rag around it. He pressed lead came around a second panel and soldered the joints until each seam lay dull and smooth. After sunset, he went downstairs to the clerk's office. The county kept its life in that room. Deeds and debts, marriages, probate lists, election tallies. Deaths, when the dead had left something behind. Alma Reed sat at the ink-stained table under a green lampshade. She was younger than Thomas, narrow in the shoulder, with ink along the side of her middle finger. Before she let a page leave her hand, she read it twice. "I need the flood docket," Thomas said. "Cedar Fork, 1857. Her hand stopped over the blotter. "That was before my time," she said. "I know. I'd rather see the docket than the final record." Alma watched him, then unlocked a cabinet and brought out a leather ledger. The Cedar Fork matter came after land disputes and a prosecution for stolen hogs. 11 people had died below Voss Timber Mill. The final finding, noted in the docket, called the flood an unavoidable freshet after days of rain. There followed a list of witnesses: mill workers, 2 farmers, Samuel Voss, the foreman, and Clara Dain, seamstress, mill cottages. Beside her name, in cramped, faded ink, Thomas found 4 words: statement received, to be entered. There was no statement attached. The next morning he read the permanent flood record upstairs. Its account was shorter, cleaner. The storm had swollen Cedar Fork beyond what any man could have prevented. Voss Mill had suffered grievously. The county offered sympathy to the bereaved. Clara Dain's name was gone. The next completed panel gave Thomas another piece of her. At dawn, from the witness box, he saw a folded paper in Clara's hand. A clerk's sleeve passed near the table. The dark chain lay across a pale surface beneath her fingers. He found Alma in the corridor before noon. There was a witness omitted from the flood record, he said. There were papers misplaced in every old matter. Her statement was received. That doesn't say it was accepted. The docket says it was to be entered. Alma shut the drawer she had been searching. She shut it hard enough to catch the skin beside her thumb. Mr. Vale, you were hired to repair windows. I know what I was hired for. Then finish them. That evening, Thomas found a sheriff's account in an old file. It offered a plain explanation for Clara Dain's absence. According to the account, she withdrew her accusation after the hearing. She bought a rail ticket west. Before she could board, she drowned while crossing the swollen creek beyond town. A boarding house ledger gave the same account its shape. Clara Dain, 1 trunk. Departure before first light. Thomas sat in the records room until Alma brought him a lamp. The woman in the glass had accused a mill foreman after 11 people died. The papers allowed for another reading. She might have been grieving. She might have been mistaken. She might have looked at an ordinary chain and found blame in it, because grief needed somewhere to go. Thomas knew that need. After his wife died, he had blamed the doctor for arriving late. He had blamed the washed-out road. He had blamed himself for not sending sooner. Each answer held for an hour. None changed what had happened. He closed the ledger. For a full day, he tried to leave Clara Dain in 1857. Then, he set another panel in place. At dawn, the crescent bubble appeared near Clara's shoulder again. After breakfast, Thomas climbed a ladder and studied it from outside. In the basement crates, among the shards he had fed into his furnace, he found a broken piece marked with the same pale crescent. Beside it ran the same faint blue ridge. He took the shard to his workshop and set it beside a trimming from the new pane. The flaw had passed through the fire. Or something had. Thomas sat before his cold furnace until afternoon turned the windows gray. Every replacement panel held old courthouse glass. By remelting it, he had carried some part of that old room into each new window. Whatever the panes were doing, they did it at dawn, through the completed glass, from one spot in the witness box. They showed no future. They gave him no voice, no explanation, just pieces of a morning that had been pressed out of the record. "I've been carrying her around town in a wheelbarrow," he said. No one answered. On the 9th day, Alma came to his workshop with a thin, warped book tied in cotton tape. She had removed her clerk's collar and rolled her sleeves to the elbow. Thomas set down his lead knife. "My grandfather's hand," she said. Harlan Reed had copied the permanent flood record in 1858. The book in Alma's arms was his rough minute book, "He was a careful man," she said. "That's what my mother always said." For a moment, she held the book against her apron. Then she put it on the bench. The shorthand was cramped and hurried. Alma read with a ruler beneath each line. Thomas watched her face change before she spoke. "Here." Beside Clara Dain's name, the rough page preserved an account of her testimony. Clara said she had seen Samuel Voss secure the spillgate wheel with a chain before the rain broke. Water was being held for a log drive planned at first light. When Cedar Fork rose, the wheel could not turn. The water went where it found room, down toward the cottages. Thomas read the page twice. Below it sat another note. Deputy Gideon Pike present before water reached lower dwellings. The minute book did not say why Pike was there. It did not say what he had done. It did not say he had been warned. But the new panes gave Thomas more to look at. In one, Clara held her folded sheet toward the clerk's table. In another, a broad-shouldered man in a deputy's coat stood near the courtroom door, his hand on the rail. The black chain crossed the witness stand. There were no words in the glass, only the chain, only the man near the door. Before spring cleaning, Thomas and Alma searched the storeroom beneath the courthouse. Thomas carried the lamp while Alma opened boxes and bundles that had swollen shut in the damp. They found an exhibit index for the flood hearing. 2 links of chain entered as damaged mill property. The box marked mill property contained rusted hinges, a broken lantern, and 2 iron links wrapped in newspaper from 1861. One link had a hooked fracture at the end. Thomas held it near the basement stairwell window. The hooked break matched the dark shape beneath Clara's hand in the first pane. Alma found another paper folded into the back of Gideon Pike's old expense account. Fare paid, Eastern County boundary. No passenger was named. No rail company was named. The supposed rail ticket had been purchased by Enoch Brill, keeper of the boarding house where Clara slept. Brill's name appeared in a separate charge to the sheriff's office, dated 2 days after the hearing. The papers did not tell Thomas where Clara went after the county line. They did not say whether she ever reached a train. But the story of her leaving Dunlow freely had begun to come apart. Gideon Pike came to the courthouse on the 12th day. He was white-haired by then, broad, despite the cane he carried. At public meetings, people saved him a chair near the stove. They remembered him as the deputy who had kept Dunlow from tearing itself apart after the flood. He found Thomas fitting lead around the final panel. "You've got folks talking," Pike said. "Folks have been talking since 1857. Alma stood at the clerk's table with the minute book closed in front of her. Pike saw it. His face barely changed. That made Thomas listen harder. "Did you take Clara Dain to the eastern boundary?" Thomas asked. Pike rested both hands on his cane. "Yes." "Why?" "There were men outside her lodging house." "Who sent you?" Pike looked toward the high windows, some still boarded over. "I got her out alive." "That wasn't my question." "No," Pike said. "It wasn't." For a while, the stove was the only thing making a sound. Then Pike said, "She thought a chain would bring back 11 dead people. It wouldn't." Thomas looked at the old man's hands. They shook, though the room was warm. "Did you raise the gate?" Pike did not answer. He left without his hat. Alma called after him from the doorway, but he had already crossed into the square. Thomas found the hat later on a bench by the stairwell. On the 14th day, the commissioners offered Thomas his choice. Install the final panel, stop troubling the town, collect the balance owed. The presiding commissioner said Dunlow had no use for old grief when court was about to convene. The mill was gone. Samuel Voss had been dead for years. Gideon Pike was an old man. What did Thomas want? A hearing for a woman nobody could prove had survived the county line? Thomas wanted his money. He wanted to return to his workshop. He wanted to make an ordinary window for somebody else and have no one look at him as if he had damaged the courthouse by repairing it. Instead, he left the final opening boarded. He asked Alma to bring the rough minutes, the permanent record, the chain, Pike's account book, and the boarding house ledger to the public inspection of the repaired courtroom. The commissioner said payment would be withheld. "Then withhold it," Thomas said. His voice surprised him. At dawn, the gallery benches were full. People stood along the walls. Families from the old mill cottages came, though the mill itself had been gone 20 years. Shopkeepers came. 2 commissioners sat beneath the judge's bench. Gideon Pike took no chair near the stove. He stood at the back with his hat against his chest. Thomas carried the final panel up the ladder. His hands did not shake until he set it in the frame. He pressed the lead into place and checked the corners. Then he climbed down. "Witness box," Alma said quietly. No one moved. Thomas entered it first. Dawn had cleared the ridge. Light came through the new panes in a pale slant across the room. Clara Dain stood among them. Her figure remained broken by lead and warped glass, but the fragments held together from that one place. Her folded statement rested in one hand. The fractured chain crossed the rail before her. Behind her, a clerk bent over a table. Near the door stood the shape of Gideon Pike. Thomas stepped aside. Alma entered the box. She looked up once, then opened her grandfather's rough minute book. Her voice was steady when she read Clara's account into the courtroom. She did not say the glass had proved it. She did not say they knew where Clara had gone after the eastern boundary. She read what the rough page said. She placed the chain in its envelope. Beside the rail ticket entry, she filed Pike's boundary fare and the charge bearing Enoch Brill's name. Then, before everyone in the room, Alma wrote a new note for the county files. Disputed omitted statement of Clara Dain, received in the Cedar Fork matter, 1857. The commissioners refused to reopen the old finding. Alma sanded the wet ink and set the page beside the permanent record. After the room had emptied, Thomas returned with his soldering iron to inspect the seams. Ordinary daylight filled the courtroom. Clara was gone. At Alma's table, the polished flood record lay open beside the rough minutes and the newly filed page. The chain rested in an evidence envelope. Alma had crossed out the word unclaimed and written its proper connection to the Cedar Fork hearing. Thomas stood beneath the repaired windows for a while, looking at the empty witness box. Then he packed his tools, closed the case, and carried it down the courthouse stairs.